Hello, folks. In today's episode of Historical Clutter, we will be discussing about the many punishments for Russia and our opinions about the war.
Hello, folks! Welcome to Historical Clutter, where we will give you your weekly dose of historical facts. My name is Brady Negrich. I am a very professional historian who knows everything about everyone in history. I specialize in World War II and the Holocaust.
My name is Nicholas Sinclair. I am also a professional historian who specializes in Greek and Roman history and mythology.
Today, as Nick said, we will be discussing the many punishments for Russia and our opinions about the war. We will have a brief discussion about the possibility of World War III, our end of the war predictions, and the sanctions that NATO has put on Russia. Well, anyways, let's get into it.
The first topic is going to be the land advancements taken by both sides of the war.
So, at the beginning of the war, Russia had a pretty good entrance on Ukraine. They gained a ton of lands. I was pretty surprised by that. How about you?
I was pretty surprised, but then again, though, considering what people expected the war to go like, it wasn't very surprising, considering the sizes of both countries.
Yeah, and also because Russia's a pretty powerful country, too. But Ukraine had NATO on their side, so...
But at the time,
we
didn't know that, so...
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why Vladimir Putin wanted to invade the Ukraine anyways. So anyways, after that drastic invasion on Ukraine, with the help of the US and the rest of NATO, they were eventually able to get back some of their lands and started pushing back into Russia. So, yeah, pretty cool of them.
Yeah, I would have to say nobody would have expected something like this to happen, considering the size of the countries. It was expected that Russia would completely dominate Ukraine.
Yeah, Ukraine has a lot of support, though, because Biden, for some reason, decides to send trillions of dollars when... Okay, this is kind of controversial, but I don't think he should have sent that much money. He should have helped us before he helps the Ukraine. I don't care. Ukraine's winning, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, but let's just hope that they stay winning.
But, yeah, they better. With their crazy stuff they've been using, like, did you hear about the kamikaze FPV drones that they use to take out tanks?
I have heard about that, but I didn't know much about it.
It's crazy. They're like taking out multi-million-dollar tanks by using like a $600 drone to just kamikaze and blow it up.
Very interesting strategy.
But you want to know a more interesting strategy? Using today's sponsor, NordVPN. But enough about that. Let's get right into the possible consequences and the consequences that are enacted right now against Russia. So first of all, the Allies have seized $30 billion in assets owned by the Russian elite force. That's a lot of money, I'm not gonna lie.
It really is.
Imagine what you can buy with that. Like 2 cups at Starbucks. But what's even more crazy is they seized $300 billion owned by the Russian Central Bank, which is even more. 10 times more to be exact.
Alright, yeah, that's a pretty big number.
That's just a lot of money. But speaking of punishments, we are also getting some backlash from the Russian-Ukraine war as well, such as all of you know by now, the rising gas prices, since Russia was one of our biggest exporters for gas in the entire world. So they're pretty important to us. Another one is the rising inflation, making things cost more money, which may or may not lead to another one of those Great Depressions that happened right before World War II. That'd be awful.
Yeah. I also heard somewhere that Europe's done on relying for Russia for energy.
Yeah, the sanctions that NATO put on Russia just cut them off from the rest of the world. Like we're not relying on them anymore.
Yeah, but it's still gonna be hard to get still like energy if we're not getting it from Russia. It's gonna be a very slow process to recover that lost energy.
Yeah, so Russia was pretty important to us, but based on what they did, they deserve to have their economy suffer.
I do feel bad for the people in Russia though, considering they didn't really have a choice on the war.
Yeah, here's something else very controversial as well. I argue that Russia's not a bad country, just the government, specifically Mr. Vladimir Putin, they're just bad people. They can go, like, somewhere else.
I mean, I don't agree with what they're doing, and I feel like they shouldn't be running a country, but I don't know about say they're bad people.
I mean, think about it. If, like, you were someone who knew a political leader who invaded a country, would you think that they're a bad person?
Alright, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. So it's somewhat they're bad, somewhat they're no what they're. I just decided that they're entirely bad people.
Alright. And due to who's running the government, not many countries are agreeing with Russia's political views, which honestly I don't think they should.
Yeah, since they probably around I think 40 years ago, no, like 50 years ago, they just got out of the Soviet Union era, which is they were communist. Russia is more leaning into that communist direction once again. So while we're on the topic of communism, the situation with China and Taiwan has been kind of fine. I haven't heard much about it lately, but they could for sure have rising tensions that could lead to the possibility of a war between them as well.
Yeah, I feel like while a lot of the focus used to be on Ukraine and Russia, now it's sort of shifted over a little bit to China and Taiwan.
And I also believe that the requirements for a world war were to have two countries, like obviously two countries fighting each other, but another two countries fighting each other at the same time.
And then most of the other countries pick one side or the other.
Yeah, basically.
So this could be pretty bad for us.
Yeah, we're not heading in the right direction.
And since a lot of money from multiple different countries have went to since a lot of money from a lot of countries that are a part of NATO have went to Ukraine, they probably don't have enough money to support their own military, which I know is true for the US.
I think we're doing pretty well, just we're kind of broke now.
Yeah, so so the US and many other countries that are part of NATO are not prepared for a long-term war.
I think we still be fine though. It'd be like the whole world against Russia and China.
Yeah, but I guess we'll have to wait and see if something bad really does happen.
Not to mention North Korea as well too, with Kim Jong-un and his unpredictability of maybe launching a nuclear strike on any unsuspected country.
today's governments have been probably the most unstable. Probably, actually, hasn't been a very long time. I don't think.
Yeah, not really.
But tensions are on the rise, and there's nothing convincing me that they're gonna go down.
Yes, that's basically all I have to say about like what I think's gonna happen in the coming years.
Well, thanks for listening to our podcast, where we have covered what the punishments could be for Russia after the war and what we personally think about the war.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Historical Clutter.